All right, welcome everyone to another episode of Sasquatch Watch Radio. Today is Monday, September 30th, 2024. We got a great guest on tonight. Before we bring our guest on, let's bring our co-host in here, Gary Kendrick. How are you doing, Gary?
Hey, everybody. How is everybody this evening?
Doing good. Now, are you doing the interviews tonight, or is that creepy guy behind you doing it?
Well, Halloween season is upon us. It'd be amazing the stuff that we built. I'd like to, if I got just a second, Billy, I just want to let everybody know that, my thoughts and prayers are going out to everybody that's been affected by Hurricane Helene. It's been pretty traumatic in a lot of places where we live at. We were fairly sheltered. We really didn't get any of the bad stuff. We had a few trees down. We had a lot of rain. We got like 6.78 inches of rain here.
Yeah.
But my thoughts and prayers, there was a lot of missing people. There was a lot of damage. Some of it may never be able to be repaired. So, my thoughts go out to everybody.
Yep. Yeah, and I recently put up I don't know if you saw it or not, I put a GoFundMe up for Jeffrey Thomas.
Yes,
we've had him on the show. He's been a good friend of mine for many, many years. And he pretty much lost his house, lost a vehicle. So I believe he's, obviously not living in the house right now. So things are a little dire down there. So we put that GoFundMe up on the Sasquatch Watch of Virginia page just to kind of help him out a little bit. So, but I know there's many more out there. They're probably going to need some help here in the coming months.
Yeah, it's pretty traumatic.
Yeah. So anyway, we want to welcome everybody to the show. We see you guys are lining up in there. We see you there. George Garcia's in here. Pete, oh man, Pete Wilson, you must have got off work early tonight.
Get him, Pete.
Yeah, go Pete. Got Digger Dog in there, and they're still piling in, and some people still that's just in the chat, not in the chat, but they're live on the show. So before I run my mouth anymore, let's get Charles Kimbrough in here. How you doing, Charles?
Hey guys, I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing just fine.
Good.
Glad to get you on the show.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, you're mighty welcome. Let's see here. There we go. See, that wasn't looking right.
We're in there.
They changed the properties, and it's every time they update something.
Made me want to sit still so that I didn't.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I can't get my screen right like that. So, all right. So just so you know, Charles, Gary is my researcher. He digs up. Yeah, hopefully he ain't got no bones in the closet or anything.
Well, hopefully not, but we'll find out tonight, I guess.
So, without further ado, Gary, the platform is yours.
Thank you, Billy. Tonight we got Charles Kimbrough, very interesting individual. Charles is an author. He's co-authored the book Sasquatching 101. You work for Central Technologies using thermal imagers with traffic. You have a group called East Coast Expeditions. You remember the BFRO. And you have a site that's pretty interesting, Kimbrough Audio, which we'll talk about in a minute. The first thing that I'd like to talk about with you tonight, Charles, I'd like to go back to around the year 1977. I believe it was. That's a long time ago.
Yeah, 7 years old. I was just a little.
Long time ago. You would have been in school in Alabama. And there was actually a Bigfoot encounter there while you were in school.
Yeah, that was actually my very first time I'd ever even heard the word Bigfoot, and I when it had happened, I mean, I remember the incident very well, but then over like the period of a week or two after that, there were like 2 or 3 other sightings in the area. So whatever this teacher had seen. So I'll go back to the beginning. We were out on a playground, and I was 7 years old. I think I was in second grade, and the playground was right along the edge of a private fence with some private land behind the fence, and just across the fence was a small pond. And while we kids were out playing in the field, the playground field there, one of the teachers screamed and started pointing across the pond, and she said, "There's a Bigfoot over there watching the children." So another teacher came in and was standing beside of her, and she was pointing and just letting her know what she's seeing, and all of a sudden they started rounding up all of us kids and getting us inside. And like I said, that was the first time I'd even heard the word Bigfoot, so I didn't even know what she had seen at the time until as an adult. I put two and two together. I'm like, Bigfoot. Oh, that was what the teacher had seen when I was a kid. So it was kind of thinking back, being a part of that was kind of interesting.
Nice.
Excellent. I go back pretty far sometimes.
You're doing a good job.
Another thing I'd like to talk to you about is Small Towns Monster episode that you guys have done. I think there's 2 of them out with your group, East Coast Expeditions, right now. Can you tell us what it's like working on the Small Town Monsters?
I tell you what, this came about. I got a message from Tyler Hall. Tyler is one of the employees of Small Town Monsters, one of the producers, I guess, and or directors. And Tyler messaged me and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about doing something in the area. Can we meet?" I'm like, "Yeah, let's go to Tasty." I think we went to Tasty Cream or something like that, one of the donut places locally in Harrisonburg. We sat down, had a cup of coffee together, and we talked for maybe 30, 45 minutes. And when we were done talking and about ready to part ways, he said, I want to do a series in the Shenandoah Valley, and I would like for you to lead a group of researchers." So I'm like, "Dude, I'm in. Just how do you want to do this? Do you want me to put together the group or what? Because I got a great group of guys that I can pull together just for the film." And he's like, "Yep, I'm going to have you take care of that." And we've been filming. We've done 2 weekends now. I think we have maybe 3 or 4 episodes filmed. Uh, the plan is to have 6 episodes total for this Shenandoah Sasquatch series for Small Town Monsters. So it's been a lot of fun. It's a little different because when I go out and do Bigfooting, I'm not used to having a camera in my face, so it's a little different for me.
Yeah.
But it's easy enough to get used to, but it takes a little while.
Excellent.
Yeah. I was going to say real quick. The good thing with having Tyler Hall and those guys do it is that they have the proper equipment and cameras.
They really do.
Fox 5 News comes out and they got spotlights. I'm like, come on, guys, we can't do this.
It's funny. There's a lot of trolls that post comments on the video and stuff, and it's like 2 or 3 people total. That's it. You shouldn't go out with more than that. Well, look, normally we would be maybe 3 or 4, but 4 usually is tops. Yeah. But when you got people filming you can't do it. I mean, you try your best, but it is missing some stuff. But we do our best having a film crew with us as well. So
yep.
And I'm just going to say for all the listeners out there, check Small. I think the actual expedition part was Sasquatch House Shakes the Shenandoah Valley or something like that, I believe was the name of it. It's worth watching. It's really interesting. I watched it. It was wonderful.
Yeah, what I liked about it though is it's realistic. These people watch all these shows that are made for television. Now, let's face it, they have to edit it to make it exciting because we all know how boring it can be out there because you spend hours and hours and days and months before you ever get anything that you feel is something important. So.
Yeah, I really like what Tyler had done with the first episode. He started out the first episode as introducing us, the researchers, getting to know us as people before jumping into all of the research that we're doing, all the night expeditions and the hikes and all the equipment that we're bringing into this. So he did a fantastic job of portraying us as humans and researchers. So
Yep.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good. Next thing I'd like to talk about, Charles, is like I said, you work for Central Technology using thermal imaging with, I think, traffic control.
Yeah, I work for Control Technologies. And
Control Technology. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've been there 23 years now. I'm their technical support manager for the Mid-Atlantic territory. So basically, the company I work for is a distributor of ITS, intelligent transportation systems equipment. So intersection control, traffic control, freeway management, things like that. So we do a lot of vehicle detection, pedestrian detection, bicycle detection, vehicle counting, things like that. Anything that would have to do with vehicles or people on the street is equipment that we do. Crosswalk equipment, flashing lights for crosswalks, sorts of things. So I dabble in a lot of different stuff. You can see all I'm sitting at my desk, and this is the stuff that I work with every day, all the stuff for work. But it's cool. But yes, FLIR, FLIR is one of the products that we represent in the traffic industry. So I work with FLIR on a regular basis, about every day. Thermal cameras doing something. So
Yeah, and I know you work with thermal cameras at Central. How does that affect how does that translate from your job into your research? Because I know you're very familiar with thermal imaging.
Yeah. So when I first got into Bigfooting, I was looking for a new hobby, something that anyone can do. Being a Bigfooter, you don't have to be a doctor, you don't have to be a scientist. Anyone can do this, but it really helps if there's something useful that you can bring to the table. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thought, well, you know what? I work with thermal cameras almost every day. It's something that I know inside out. Um, of course, the side that I work with is basically, yes, it is FLIR, but it's not like a handheld FLIR thermals. Like this. This is a FLIR. This is a FLIR camera here. For traffic industry. So this thing here is thermal, but it has the algorithm in here for detecting for vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
pedestrians, bicycles. So you can tell it specifically what you want to detect. So what I do is a little different, but it still utilizes thermal cameras itself. Even this is a FLIR thermal camera. We use these for vehicle detection.
Mm-hmm.
However, it's a thermal camera, and this is just a composite video thermal camera. I use them. I'm using one of those right now, doing a camera trap. So you take. I don't have it at my desk. I have it down in the garage. So I have a security camera like that in a really big ammo box with like a 22 amp hour battery and a power inverter and a small DVR, something that I can carry out in the woods, hide under some brush or something, and point it in a direction that I want to record, and just leave it and let it sense and record as needed. So kind of like a thermal trail camera,
Mm-hmm.
basically, because no one makes a thermal trail camera.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Not
Yeah.
yet.
unfortunately, that's something that I would love to design, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm just not quite there yet. I'm what I'm building is very similar to that. We let the DVR actually do the detection and start recording, so it
Yep.
has a motion sensor built into the DVR, so it really
Mm-hmm.
helps.
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty interesting. I don't want you to take any offense by what I'm going to say. You're kind of a gadget guy.
I am.
Okay, and I'm gonna be honest with you. One of the gadgets that you carry, I'm really interested in.
Okay.
It's the Earth Sound thing. But the question that I have is, tell us about some of the technology that you take with us in your research.
Well, like most everyone else, I do carry a handheld thermal with me everywhere. Every time I go bigfooting, I also have audio recorder running. I usually have the audio recorder is key. It's getting a video of a Bigfoot is going to be the most difficult thing anyone has done. But capturing audio is so much easier than catching something on video. So just having an audio recorder in your backpack and microphones on your shoulders with a left and a right channel microphone, just recording constantly while you're in the woods. So that way, if something does make a sound while you're there, you're catching it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have to be prepared, any more prepared than that. But yeah, I try to carry a couple little things with me. The little earth tone thing, we all think, or many of us believe, that Bigfoots have the ability to produce an infrasound. and an infrasound is basically it's a sound lower than 20 hertz. Humans can't hear below 20 hertz. I know young children can hear very close to 20 hertz, maybe slightly under, but for the most part, adults, we can't hear anywhere near. I mean, no, wait, children hear like closer to 20,000 hertz, but 20 hertz is like a really, really deep, almost a
Yeah.
rumble, a bass sound.
Mm-hmm.
So, so yeah, it's nice being able to capture something on audio, but carrying, I've been just testing. You know, we like to take stuff with us to see if we can get a reaction. It's all trial and
Mm-hmm.
error. You know, we
Mm-hmm.
don't necessarily know what's going to work and what isn't going to work, but that little earth tone thing that I carry with me, it produces like, I think it's like 7.68, I don't know, somewhere in that range, hertz. It just produces a tone. And we can't hear it. You turn it on, the only thing that is telling you that it's even turned on is a little blue LED that comes on.
Yeah.
It may not be making a sound at all for all I know, but you turn it
Right.
on, the little blue LED comes on, and it's supposedly playing a 7 hertz tone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So hopefully I'm just out there irritating a squatch or something. Maybe it'll make them curious enough to come closer to see what that sound is. You know, so it's just trial and error.
Yeah, like I said, I think that's really interesting. If nothing else, it may actually even kind of mask some of the sounds that you might be making.
True, true.
We have a
Yeah.
question from one of our guests here. It's David wants to know, hey Charles, have you had any interesting audio or video experiences in the past few years of note? Maybe that shook him or that he's found interesting or has him scratching his head.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always catching something cool. You may have, if you watched the Shenandoah Sasquatch at the very end of the second episode, they teased you with just a small clip of two howls that I caught
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
one of the nights. That was pretty good. Those are some pretty good howls. Um, but we do occasionally catch some things that do make you scratch your head. There's a sound that I've captured once. Devin Monongahela has had it maybe 3 or 4 times sent to him, and we call it a zipper vocal. It sounds like zzz, and we think that it's coming from a squatch because usually when it's happening, there's some squatch activity around us,
Mm-hmm.
but it's just an odd vocal that we don't know exactly what it is. It's just something that you don't capture very, very often. So we
Yeah.
call it the zipper vocal. But yeah,
Did you
there's things.
did you ever figure out what that sound was that you thought something was tapping on the guardrail?
Uh, yeah. So we had some activity along with the guardrail making some little tapping noises.
Mm-hmm.
And it didn't do it during the day. I went back for a day hike. It wasn't doing it during the day. It didn't do it when we first got there, and it did it on the way out, and then it only did it a few times. But we have to believe that being a real researcher, you try to determine whether or not what you are hearing is actually a Bigfoot or something else explainable.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think that we were getting some contracting and expanding of the guardrail, and it was
Yeah.
making some pops sounds,
Yeah.
and it sounded like a wood knock, but it sounded
Mm-hmm.
didn't sound quite woody. It sounded more metallic.
Yeah.
But during that same time, we were getting some wood knocks behind us, the
Mm-hmm.
opposite direction of the guardrail,
Yeah.
banging, tapping kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I found it because in the second episode, if you paid attention very closely, I dropped down out of the picture frame at one point while we were standing there, and I dropped down and put my ear on the guardrail.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yeah.
sat there for about 5 minutes with my ear on the guardrail, just
Mm-hmm.
waiting for it to bang again. And eventually it popped while my ear was on it. I'm like, it's definitely coming from the guardrail. This part is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was really interesting. I wondered about that if it might have been, like thermal expansion and contraction, because guardrails will heat up during the daytime,
Mhm.
and at night as they cool off, they'll contract and they'll pop.
Yes. Yes. That is part of what we were getting that night. But but we were also getting some wood knocks across the dam as well. So, and the guardrail went straight to the dam and stopped. So we were
Yeah.
standing at the top of the dam and we were hearing some wood knocks across the water as well.
Yep.
So they were out there that night. They just didn't want to come too close.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't want to give anything away. It was an excellent episode. I hope the listeners and viewers go out and actually watch it. It was really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Glad to hear.
As part of what you do, tell us what makes the Shenandoah Valley such a hot spot for Sasquatch.
Man, I tell you what, this area, Shenandoah Valley, it is beautiful. It's gorgeous. The Shenandoah Valley is not that large. I think it's maybe 100, 150 miles long, maybe 50 miles, 60 miles wide. It's gorgeous. It's a lot of land, but we're blessed and we're cursed all at the same time. So we're blessed to have so much national forest. I mean, I bet there's at least, I think there's like 1.6 million acres of national forest within, not just in the Shenandoah Valley, but all touching. So the national forest that's in the Shenandoah Valley touches other national forests, the Jefferson National Forest, the George Washington, the Monongahela. So all those national forests together is like 1.6 million acres. And that's a real blessing. However, the curse is we have 1.6 million acres that we have to find Bigfoot in. And there's just not that many of them. So finding them is really tough because they just won't sit still. These things might be active in one area 1 week, and then you got to find them somewhere else the next week because it's dried up there. So I feel like they make really big circles. Like they're here in January. Okay, they might be back here in April or May. So it's like they make these really big circles, and it takes them a while to get back to the same area. So we can't figure out exactly what they're doing, but it's just so tough. If I had to put a number on how many Squatch I think are in North America, I know everyone comes up with a different number.
Yeah.
My guess is a little higher than like Cliff said last week. Cliff's number was very low in my opinion, but
Yeah.
I think maybe 30,000 in North America, and I say that because as a researcher and with my group East Coast Expeditions, we do expeditions, private expeditions, all up and down the East Coast, and it's like we'll go to one location and we'll have activity. We'll go to another state and we'll have activity. We'll go to another state and we'll have activity. I mean, there has to be enough for these things to have a breeding population, and for us to have that kind of luck, there has to be at least 25, 30,000 of these things in North America to be able to find them like that. I mean, of course, we do chase reports. So like being in the BFRO, we do have access to the flats, the BFRO database. So we know where the latest reports are. So we can get close to the latest activity, fairly soon. And so I mean, I have my favorite places in Virginia. I love Southwest Virginia. One of my favorite places, yeah, man. One of my favorite places is Hungry Mother State Park.
Absolutely.
I have activity every time I go down there. That place is a real hot spot. So I love it. So I've hosted like 3 private expeditions there with my group, and we've had Class A sightings. I mean, it's been good stuff. So
excellent. With that in mind, talking about how you'll have activity in one spot in January and then activity, maybe again in April in that same spot or whatever, do you believe that the Bigfoot are migrating, or do you believe it just they may be working a food source?
I think they're working the food source. And the reason I say that, I do a lot of research up on Shenandoah National Park, Skyline Drive, and I've gotten some pretty good stuff up there. But if you go up there in the middle of the winter, you won't catch crap. There, you won't get anything on the audio recorder. You won't see anything. You won't even see any deer in the middle of the winter time. So it's like you're not going to get any Bigfoot activity up there when it's single digit temperatures. So I think they're following the food source. So I think they're going up and down the mountains more so than, we're not like Alberta, Canada, or Saskatchewan, to where it gets so cold they're following the the reindeer, because the reindeer are migrating, 100 miles, this direction. So they got to follow the food source like that.
Yep.
I think regionally they stay within that area, but I think they go up and down the mountains just following their food source.
David's got another question here. David wants to know, he said, I've heard Sasquatch mimicking many sounds, baby cryings, birds, coyotes, etc. Do you think that the zipper sound could be them mimicking the sound of a tent zipper?
We have thought about that. That is very possible. And it's right. They do mimic. They're master mimickers. In fact, I was, well, I don't know if necessarily the baby cry is mimicking. And I think that it's possible that there could be Bigfoot babies actually crying in the woods. I mean, you got grown up Bigfoots. They have to start somewhere, So, but yes, I mean, we've heard owls that didn't sound quite like owls. But yeah, it's very possible that they hang out in campgrounds a lot. It seems that when we go to a lot of these expeditions, typically a group will hang back and stay at the campground, just stay back and keep the fire going all night. And whoever does that tends to have as much activity as anyone out on the trails. So I wouldn't be surprised if they're not hearing that zipper. Zzz, and yeah, it makes sense.
Yep.
Good
I
point.
jump in on a whole lot of the Native American stuff, and one of the great Native American historical things they talk about Bigfoot is a mimic. That it does mimic the sounds of animals and even people. I'm part Cherokee and part Shawnee, and the Cherokee, one of their legends is that Bigfoot actually lived with them, for a certain type of Bigfoot lived with them. They called it Sukaloo, and it's not really talked about that much. But I'm not full Cherokee, so I'm going to talk about it.
Right.
But the Sukaloo actually stayed in some of the Cherokee villages, and the Cherokee actually taught it to speak some Cherokee, so it could speak some Cherokee. And that's a really prominent Cherokee legend about Sasquatch, and I think that's really interesting. I think that ties in a lot with the mimicking skills.
Yeah, well, they definitely have a language as well. So, so I wouldn't be surprised if some of their language was very similar to Cherokee. You're right. Yeah, I mean, they've heard it somewhere.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well, it's that time. Charles, you remember I asked you what kind of music you liked?
Now I'm scared.
So one of his choices was 1990s country. So we had AI, artificial intelligence, put together a song about Charles Kimbrough. It titled the song "Hunting Shadows in Shenandoah." So here we go.
Charles Kimbrough packed his truck, heading down the open road with his old dog Rusty. Through the Shenandoah they rode. He heard the tales, those whispers carried on the wind, of a giant walked these valleys, a legend without end. Morning dew and mountain views, he set up camp by a stream in the heart of the wild, where most folks never dream. He'd weave through forest paths where sunlight scarce would touch, with a camera in his hand, searching for old Bigfoot's clutch. Standing in the shadows, chasing after dreams, through the mist of mountains and the whispers of the trees, Charles Kimbrough won't back down. He's trekked 1,000 miles, looking for that Sasquatch with a heart of pure denial. Rusty caught a scent one night, grew restless by the fire. Charles grabbed his hat and a rifle, with eyes that never tire. Through the hollows and the hills, they chased that shadow's frame, an echo of a mystery, just a step ahead untamed. Standing in the shadows, chasing after dreams, through the mist of mountains and the whispers of the trees. Charles Kimbrough won't back down. He's trekked 1,000 miles, looking for that Sasquatch with a heart of pure denial. They say some men get lost out there, swallowed by the night, but Charles has got that beacon, a never-fading light. In the Shenandoah silence, where the ancient secrets lay, he keeps on searching every night and through the break of day. He's standing in the shadows, chasing after dreams through the mist of mountains and the whispers of the trees. Charles Kimbrough won't back down. He's trekked 1,000 miles, looking for that Sasquatch with a heart of pure denial. They say some men get lost out there, swallowed by the night, but Charles has got that beacon, a never-fading light. In the Shenandoah silence, where the ancient secrets lay, he keeps on searching every night and through the break of day.
My question is, do you have a dog named Rusty?
I have 5 dogs, and none of them are named Rusty.
Well, where did AI get Rusty from?
I don't know, but that was awesome. I feel honored. That is fantastic. Give that man a record deal right there.
That was a good deal. That's a good one. That's a real good one.
Thank you for that. That was awesome.
I'm gonna sound kind of biased, but that's always one of my favorite parts of the show. Because some of these songs are phenomenal. They really are.
Who needs people anymore when you have AI, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's just hope they don't put me out of a job.
Yeah, never.
Charles, I'd like to talk to you about your team. You've got a really interesting team with some really interesting people on it, East Coast Expeditions. And I know your team is set up with nothing but experienced field researchers. There's no newbies. There's no beginners. It's all experienced researchers. Tell us about your team.
Yeah, man. So back around 2014, we started this group, East Coast Expeditions. So the reason we did this is most of us are BFRO investigators. And so we attend a lot of BFRO expeditions, but usually within reason, within a good driving distance, there may be 1 or 2 that we can get to every year. And so I personally was like, that's not enough for me. I want more expeditions. I think to keep our experiences high and our senses honed in on Bigfooting to do it right, we need to spend more time than that in the woods together. So this group was put together primarily for the members to host private expeditions for the other members of the group. And there's about 105 of us. It's by invite only. If you're a BFRO investigator and you can make it to the East Coast, you live in the East Coast somewhere like east of the Mississippi, then you're automatically in if you want in. But otherwise, you have to attend as a guest to one of our private expeditions. And then we'll decide if we want you in the group or not, because you may not mesh well with the group. There's been some that just hadn't meshed well. But we have expectations. We expect you to act a certain way, and that sort of thing. And we want you to hold your own and to offer something to the group. Whether it's your expertise or your research location. We want these private expeditions to be hosted by you. So step up and let's get these guys together. And we were really active before COVID, and we were doing like three a year, extra private expeditions. But since COVID, we've slowed down a little bit. We're usually doing at least 1 a year now. We're working on one right now. My group doesn't know it yet, but I'm working on one for the spring in West Virginia. So we love West Virginia. It's also very central to most of the members. And as far as the members go, you guys would probably recognize 90% of the people that are in there, name wise. It's big. It's mostly big name people. Um, if you saw the list of the members, you're like, oh, I know him, I know her, I know him, I know her. You'd be impressed. It's a great group.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Another thing I'd like to talk about real quick as I turn my page here. I saw you on another podcast where you were talking about glowing eyes. A lot of researchers talk about glowing eyes. The it's out there. None of us are experts. Nobody has Bigfoot tied up in the barn and going down there and checking on him every day and seeing what he's doing and what he's not doing and stuff like that. But the red glowing eyes is something that's a lot of people see. Do you feel that maybe that the glowing eyes are bioluminescent? Is it eye shine and adaptation to dark? And tell us about your own experiences with the glowing eyes.
Yeah. So I've witnessed this many times, and it was something that before I ever witnessed it for the first time, I said, I don't know if I necessarily believe in that. Maybe once I see it with my own eyes, I'll believe it. But until then, I'll keep an open mind. But I don't know that I really believe in that one. And then I experienced it, and and it's not just red. I've seen white, I've seen blue, I've seen green, I've seen red. So I've seen multiple colors of this, and so there's eye shine and there's eye glow. Two different
Mm-hmm.
things. Eye glow is when the eye itself, the internal eye, illuminates itself. So it just kind of glows internally. If I like to I like to kind of describe it as back in the 80s, if you remember those Indiglow watches where the face of the watch would glow, that is very similar to eye glow. It's just a faint glow, and it's obviously coming from within. It's not a reflection, because the first time I witnessed it was under tree canopy. You couldn't see the sky. There was no ambient light. There was no lights were on. It was total darkness. The moon was not shining, and we couldn't even see the sky. And I saw it. So there's no way possible it was a reflected light off of the back of the eye. But and that one was a bluish green, first one I'd ever seen. And then, but I've witnessed that about a dozen times, different colors.
Mhm.
But twice I have actually witnessed eye shine. So eye shine is when the eye internally illuminates, but it's also projected outwards almost like a beam, like a flashlight beam would shine. And both times that I witnessed it, I actually was with another person. So it wasn't just me seeing it. It was I had another witness with me. Both times it was a different person. I was with Goodwin, a German lady who is BFRO. She lived in Maryland at the time. She lived actually in Pentagon City, like 2 blocks from the Pentagon. And she and I would go out together. And we were in Southern Maryland the first time I'd ever witnessed it. We were in her Land Cruiser, backed in off of the road, and it was just totally dark. And we were backed in off the road. The road was in front of us. There was a guardrail across the road from us, but it was like a one-lane road. No painted lines in the road at all.
Mhm.
And and just across the guardrail, and I think it was one of the big river. Maybe it's the Anacostia River that runs up towards DC. It was very close to that. Um, while we were sitting there, I saw this light come on, and it was like to the side. So there was trees between me sitting in the front seat of her Land Cruiser and this thing across the guardrail. And when the light would come on like this, and it would be on for about 2 seconds, and then it went off. And then it came on again for like 2 seconds. And every time it would come on, it was so bright that I could see all the silhouettes of the trees between this thing and me. And it came on like 3 times. And the third time it turned towards me. And I felt like, I don't know if it was a wide beam still, but it hit me in the eyes. I felt like it was so bright, it hit me right in the eyes. I don't know if it came to a pinpoint or if it was still wide, but it was super bright. And then it went off, and I didn't see it again after that. And
Hmm.
that was the first time I'd ever witnessed anything like that. But I did witness it one other time in Kentucky, in Anderson County, Kentucky, at the Fraser Land. The Fraser Land is some creepy. There's like 500 acres there there was a documentary done about the property years ago about all the weird stuff that happens there. There's been Bigfoot sightings. There's just been, my wife was with me one time and she saw this ball of fire come across tops of the trees about the size of a basketball, and it just kind of disappeared. So there's all kinds of weird stuff happens there. And Greg Lambert and I were at the big open field, and we were looking down at the bottom. You could see a tent down there. The tent was glowing, but it was glowing because it was Mark Mazel's tent, and he had two tents. He had a tent inside of a tent, and because it was really cold, and he had a candle lit inside of the second tent for warmth. So this is his way of creating
Mm-hmm.
some sort of insulation barrier or something. But his tent was glowing down at the bottom of the field because of that candle that was inside of it. And behind his tent was something that, it was some white lights, and it looked like it was looking down at the ground. It would squat down close to the ground, then it would like stand back up. It would take a few steps forward, and then it would look back down to the ground again. And it did this like 3 times, and then it went off into the woods and was gone. And again, I mean, a weird occurrence. I mean, I can't 100% say that both of these were Bigfoot related, but now the one in southern Maryland, just before I saw it, a rock hit the guardrail right in front of our truck. So something threw a rock and hit the guardrail really hard. I mean, it was whiz bang, and then the light started shining. So that's a secondary marker to me saying, okay, so the light could potentially have been Bigfoot because the rock is potentially thrown by Bigfoot. It's fairly well believed that Bigfoots throw rocks with good accuracy, and so because of that secondary marker, I have to believe that that light shine was possibly a Bigfoot. So twice in my life I've seen that odd occurrence of a light shining.
Trust
Very.
me and Gary know strange. We
Yeah.
Oh,
we know
yeah.
strange.
We've seen a lot of strange.
A lot of that. If you spend enough time in the woods, you're going to see some weird stuff, man. It's
Real. Especially here where I live at in Southwest Virginia, and a lot of it is just our, local meth heads. They're on that high speed chicken food. One question I try to ask all of the guests, and it's weird, and I'll explain it. It's animal, mineral, or vegetable. Animal, do you believe that Sasquatch is a natural animal? Mineral, do you believe that Bigfoot might be interdimensional or extraterrestrial? Or vegetable, do you believe it's some type of spiritual, or do you think it might be a combination of all three?
I think of this a lot, actually. It's a very good question. I'm glad that you bring it up this way. I think it's animal. Um, I have to believe that it's animal until something better comes along. Um, I'm a firm believer that you have to do this scientifically. We're not going to be taken seriously if we're start saying, oh, it's interdimensional. It's hard enough to prove it as an animal. Let's prove it as interdimensional. Okay. So I'm not going to say yes, it's interdimensional until I'm shown better proof. I mean, right now I have to start at the bottom and say it's a living, breathing creature. Uh, I say creature, but I personally think, and I can't wait till Darby Orcutt comes out with his white paper on the DNA studies that he's doing at NC State University. I'm looking forward to that.
Oh, yeah.
But as far as its abilities and why I think it's an animal, I believe it is I think it's a hybrid. I think it's got some human in it some way somehow, whether it was always there or whether it was a crossbreed of something that has just continued to breed. I don't know for sure, but I do believe that their abilities are far superior to ours in many ways. But I think that they're superior because I think that these things have learned that for them to remain in existence, they have to be very stealthy. They have to remain hidden. They have to live a different way. So
Mhm.
and living in the woods and having that mindset, like I believe these things have the ability to reason. I think that they can look at something and think through what would happen if I did this, what would happen if I did this. Maybe this is too risky, maybe I shouldn't do that. I think they have that ability to actually think things through, more so than like an animal, more closely to a human than a dog, or ability to reason. A dog will be like, oh, there's something on the counter. I'm going to take this off the counter. They don't even think about the punishment they're going to get if they get caught taking that off the counter. I think Bigfoots actually can think through and say, if I do that, I could potentially get caught. And it may be the end of me if I get caught. I think that they can think things through that way. So it's just because of the way they live that they seem to have abilities that we can't necessarily understand. I
Yeah,
think.
and like I've always said, you know, we know our house. If we turn the lights off in our house, we know our house.
You
We
can get
can
to the kitchen
practically
without a light
right.
on.
They know the woods. They live in the woods. They know it way better than we do. So they know the best places to hide, stay out of sight.
Yes.
Mess with you and you never find them.
If I put a trail camera in your living room, you'd know it. You'd see it like that.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep.
Like I said,
Did
this
you
is a
ever
great
talk? Did you
movie.
ever? Did you ever talk to William Dranginis, Charles?
The name doesn't ring a bell. No.
Okay, because you and him both have, really expert level when it comes to FLIR. He was a certified FLIR. I forget what you call it, but he was certified by FLIR. And he developed these security systems called I Gotcha. And
Okay.
what they were small cameras, no bigger than your pinky. And he could drill a hole in a log, put that thing in the log. So he actually did this for the National Park Service up here at Prince William Forest Park. Because they had trail cameras out because they were trying to find out, people had been reporting cougars. So he brought these things out. And the trail cameras were only catching like a quarter of what his cameras were catching. And he swears that trail cameras give off an ultrasonic sound when they trigger.
Yep.
When they pick up the motion, the infrared turns on. Everything hears it. And I proved that even with mine. I had some old stealth cams. And right before that infrared would trigger, you could see the deer's ears pop up and they'd look directly at the camera.
Yep.
Almost every picture I get on my trail cameras, I have 3 of them at my property. I have a cabin in Burkton, Virginia, and I have 3 trail cameras out there, and every picture I get of a deer is looking right at the camera. That's not a coincidence.
Yeah, it's not. No.
Yeah. Like I said, Billy, it's a great guest because he just like segues into every question I'm going to ask. This is awesome. It's an excellent interview. I'm going to talk about Mike Green. You actually did an experiment close to the same area and I'm going to screw this up. I think the Uwharrie National Forest, where Mike Green actually had his squeaky film. Oh Lord.
Yep.
And anyway,
digging.
Can you tell us about what it was like at the Uwharrie area and the encounter that you had?
Yeah, Uwharrie is a fantastic place. I do believe it gets over squatched quite a bit because of the experiences people's had down there. But in 2014, I was down there. So 10 years ago, gosh, I was in the same campground that Mike. Mike was in my group. He was in ECE for a while, and but Mike liked to stick to just his little area there. But he would come out sometimes when we'd have an expedition and see us. But yeah, in West Morris Campground, which is where Mike had caught his squeaky footage, we usually use that campsite as our base site for the expedition, and because of the history, because of Mike, the stump is gone. The Squeaky took the candy bar from. The stump's rotted out. It's gone now, and all that. But anyway, in the same campground, but like 5 campsites down the hill from there. I like to when I go to these expeditions, I typically will separate myself from the full group. Most people stay together. Yeah, I like to go to the other end of the campground where there's no one, and set up camp down there. And so I was at the bottom of the campground down there, down towards the other outhouse porta john thing that they had down at the other side of the circle. And I was on the inside of the circle. So the campground is one circle, but there's campsites on the outside of the circle and on the inside of the circle. I was camped on the far side on the inside of the circle, looking across the road at the campsites on the outside of the circle. And one night for dinner, I had opened up one of those MRE military meals, and I had that for dinner. And there was like a peanut butter cookie or sugar cookie in there, and I put peanut butter on it and sprinkled it with sugar, and I walked it across the road to a picnic table on the outside of the campsites. And I put the cookie on the corner of the picnic table, and I went back to my campsite, and I set up a thermal camera, one of these white thermal cameras like I showed you a moment ago. And I had that sitting up on my picnic table, and I had it recording to a DVR all night long, because it's an AC powered camera, so you can plug it into an outlet. And so I had it connected to a DVR, just recording all night long. And I took a trash bag and I draped a trash bag over top of it. Thermal cameras can see through trash bags. You may not have known that, but so you can actually put a trash bag in front of it and it sees straight through it, because a thermal camera isn't really a camera at all. It's a sensor. It senses long wave infrared, and so it's sensing through the plastic. But anyway, so it couldn't see the camera because of the trash bag. But about 4 o'clock in the morning, just a little bit before 4 o'clock in the morning, my camera died. It just quit. There was like no image on the camera at all. It was just snow. And I'm like, that has never happened before. And it has never happened since. But at about 10 minutes till 4, it still recorded on the DVR, but it was just an image of snow. No image at all, just snow. And then it came back on like 2 minutes after 4 and had an image again. And about 30 seconds after this thing came back on, the image that it was recording showed something that came in low to the ground, like it came below ground, and it lifted its head up like this. And like it came in on all fours down real low because the hill dropped off. It lifted its head up, and you could see its head, and you could see it turn its head like this. It looked over at the cookie. Then it turned its head like this and looked up the hill towards Mike Green's campsite where he stayed, and that's where everyone else was staying. And then it looked straight at the camera, and it hesitated, like this thing was reasoning, like it's thinking, okay, this looks too easy. And then it ducked its head, turned, and went back the way it came. And when it ducked its head and turned, you could see its shoulder in the image. You could see its head and its shoulder as it turned. And we recreated it the next day. And Dr. Tom Bruns and I recreated it that next morning. And its head was twice the size of my head. So it was either a Squatch or a bear. But if it were a bear, it would have taken the cookie. So it would not have been reasoning, looking around like that. It would have just, a cookie. Thank you. But I have to believe that it was probably another Squatch. So with the history that campground had.
I'm going to chime in a little bit on that one. I've watched Mike Green's video 100 times. That's, one of the videos that I go to and I watch and I watch and I watch and I watch. A lot of researchers say that Squeaky was a bear. They said it acted like a bear. It was a bear. I'm going to say this. I spend a lot of time outside. I've been around animals a lot my whole life. I'm an outdoor kind of guy. When you look at a bear, when a bear is standing, a bear is tubular.
Yep.
It has
They
no
don't have
shoulders.
shoulders.
They are very tubular. There's no shoulders. And in Mike Green's video and your video both, because I watched them both, you can actually see a shoulder as it moves.
Hmm.
That is not a bear.
Yep.
No.
I would agree. And not only that, when that thing in Mike Green's video stood up behind that tree, it did a typical primate move. It stood there shifting its weight from foot to foot,
Back and
just
forth.
like
Yep.
just like a primate. I
Yep.
mean, I have no doubt Mike Green captured the real deal. In
Yeah.
2009, that is the best thermal footage anyone has ever captured to
Yeah.
date.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in this community, when you do have something good, a good video or a good photograph or anything, everybody gets in and wants to tear it apart.
Yep.
Well, it was
Jealousy.
this, it was that. You don't know what you're doing. You don't know this. You don't know that.
Welcome to the Bigfoot
I'm
world.
convinced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced that well, I can't say I'm 100% convinced because I wasn't there. I can't be 100% convinced of anything, but I'm convinced that is not a bear. Whatever it is bipedal, and like you said, it has typical primate behavior, the anxiety behavior, the shifting back and forth,
Yep.
and there's clear shoulders,
Yeah.
and it is a massive individual. It is a very massive individual. And,
Yeah,
and
Mike told me that he recreated it as well, and that one was nearly 8 feet tall.
Yeah. It's an excellent piece of footage, and like I said, I saw yours too, and it's pretty interesting.
It's nothing definitive, but catching something great is really
Mm.
hard. Sometimes you just have to settle.
Yeah.
What I caught was very difficult to catch. It's not anything breaking at all, but it is something, and I do believe it has potential to have been. That's why in the YouTube video I said possible Bigfoot, Sasquatch. I didn't say it definitely was, but it had potential to have been a
Yeah.
Bigfoot. And
I think it had.
if you go to the North Carolina Department of Game's website, they have a picture, a map on there, and they're saying that there are bear all the way to the east and there are bear all the way to the west, but the center of the state like this, there's no bear down the center of the state, and Uwharrie is right in the middle of that. So that funnel shape. So, I'm sure that they do get bear through there, but bear have a different behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. The last thing I want to talk about is Kimbrough audio, and I'm really intrigued with Kimbrough audio. The sound system that you use in the Small Town Monsters, I'm really fascinated with that. That is
I actually
excellent.
have it right here. I'm planning to take it with me. I'm leaving tomorrow for an expedition. So, so
can you tell us a little bit about Kimbrough? Can you tell us a little bit about Kimbrough audio and what you do?
Yeah. So when I first got into Bigfooting, it's like there's a lot of equipment that Bigfooters use, and some of it is considered a wear item, and microphones is one of those items. Because of the way we use them, you have to consider them a wear item. They wear out. They need to be replaced every now and then because of you leaving them out in the rain and the snow, and the weather conditions are horrible. And like I use them in these long duration audio recorders that I build. This is one of them. So you can see I have a microphone here, and I build mine with the 6-inch cap over top of a 4-inch tube, so that way at least water is not running over my microphones, so it'll drip over it. But still, they do tend to get wet sometimes. The little cloth is actually supposed to be waterproof, but occasionally I will lose one here and there to water. But it gets expensive. So I'm like, I'm going to build my own microphones. It'll be a lot cheaper for me because I had plans of putting so many out there. I went through so many different microphones in the early years, buying components, and they just not hold up. And I buy some more components and test them. At one point, I bet before I ever built the first microphone to sell, I probably had invested over $1,000 in microphone components, just building them and testing them and running them through different conditions and see how well they sound, comparing this microphone to this microphone, and then comparing cost of this one to this one? And is it worth more for this sound quality versus the sound quality I get from just a slightly less expensive component? And so I found a happy medium for me between components and sound quality and sensitivity, uh, uh, internal noise. You get get a slight hiss with audio recording, no matter what you have, but you can get less hiss. It's internal noise,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have come up with what I think to be the perfect combination for the price, and and I have built so I haven't kept track of it completely, but somewhere between 800 and 1,000 sets of
Wow.
microphones over the years, and sold to other Bigfooters.
Yeah.
So I have in every state in the U.S. I've sold microphones. I ship them cross country almost every week.
Yep.
It's been fun. It's been an experience. It's not like I'm not raking in the big bucks with this or anything, but it does help me finance my hobby,
Mm-hmm.
so a little bit. So and it keeps me in stock with my own microphones because I go through some mics, and
Yep.
as much as I have recorders out in the field quite often. So, but it's worth it to me because when you capture like this thing that I build here, um, I build this and I'll deploy it in the woods with internal recorder with a timer. I use the this is what I do. I have this. It's an Olympus recorder, the DM620, and I have it wired with little dummy batteries, two fake batteries in here making connections so that I can use D cell batteries instead of the AA batteries that it comes with. And when I do this, I get like 36 nights of audio recording before I have to go and replace batteries. So I can put this sucker out in the woods and leave it out for over a month and
Yeah.
then go and just swap batteries and exchange the memory card and let her keep on going. Then I'll take the memory card back to my desk, and it's like Christmas going through my audio recordings. Just what do I have on this one? Do I have something great? It's just we get something all the time, but it's not always Bigfoot, but we get some cool stuff. I get some fantastic coyote howls
Mm-hmm.
standing right up underneath the recorder. It's just, man, I get some good stuff. I
Yeah.
got a triple wood knocks just above my cabin, like maybe 300 yards up the mountain from my cabin. Beautiful triple wood knock, 3 o'clock in the morning.
Mm.
So
Sweet,
Nice.
sweet. Charles, I
Awesome.
want to give you an opportunity to let the listeners know where they can keep up with your stuff at, shameless plugs for your audio or whatever you want to do. Just let us know where
sure.
we can find you at and what you're doing.
Yeah, so my website's kimbroughaudio.com, and that's where you can order microphones if you're interested. I do true stereo microphones. They have a left and a right channel. That is really difficult to find. If you go online, just about everything on Amazon, and you find two microphones, it's two mono microphones for like
Yep.
podcasts. So
Yep.
you have two full channels of mono instead of a left and a right channel. The important thing about using a left and a right channel is when you put this thing in the woods, if you point the left up the ridge and the right down the ridge and you listen to the audio, you can tell if something's coming in from the left and going down the
Mm-hmm.
hill or coming up the hill. So it can help you pinpoint where it was coming and where it was going, and if it was two individuals making the sounds. Because if you're getting a howl in this channel and a howl in this channel, it's two separate individuals. Which one is stronger? So it helps you gather more information instead of having two monos. You can't tell directionality with mono microphones.
Yep.
But kimbroughaudio.com. Also, my book, Squatchin' 101, it's on Amazon. There's a link on it from my website to the book on Amazon as well.
Mm, good. Good deal.
And the book, by the way, what it's all about. It's called Squatchin' 101. It's basically, the hardest part about making this book was keeping it small. I had a lot to say, and I wanted the book to stay small because I wanted it to be used as a field guide. So you could put it in your backpack. If you need information like how do I cast this track, you can pull the book out and look through the book and say, okay, this is the best practice. And there's audio chapter. There's just what to look for when you're out. What equipment do you need to go bigfooting? What to expect if you're going to attend a BFRO expedition? When I attended my first BFRO expedition, I was by myself. I didn't have any friends going with me. I didn't know anyone. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea. There's nothing out there saying what you're going to get into when you go. And so there was a need. So I sat down and I wrote this book to help people who want to get involved with how to start doing your own Bigfoot research, but you have no idea how to get started. This book was written for that person in mind.
Yep.
Excellent. Nice. Excellent. Well, Billy, that's all I've got, brother.
All right, man.
You did a lot of digging, man. You found things I didn't think you'd find.
I work hard. I really
did.
Yeah, I try to give him as much heads up as I can so he can do his research. So.
That's awesome. I'm no Cliff. I don't have all of the big words, but hopefully that was a good interview for you guys.
Oh, it was excellent.
Yeah, excellent. It was very good. So if you can hold on, Charles, till after we close out the show, we'll talk to you a few more minutes if you got time.
Absolutely.
All right. So we want to thank everybody for coming on the show tonight, and want to remind everybody, if you have any suggestions for guests that you want to see on the show, feel free to go to our Facebook page, send us some suggestions, or you can send us some suggestions even on our YouTube page where you're watching this podcast. And please remember to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel. It does not charge you anything. There's no cost whatsoever for a subscription. All that does is help you be able to see who we got coming on the show the following week. So I'd like to get as many on there as possible. We got us a new member tonight, so want to welcome David Rosty to the show. We're glad to have you aboard. And so yeah, spread the word, guys. Let them all know where we're at, and go from there. So until next time, everybody have a great and wonderful rest of the week, and we'll see you next Monday night at 9 p.m. Eastern. Good night, everybody.
Night, everybody. Stay safe out there.